in a heavy rainy day.
This was an experience I had when I was in the early grades of elementary school. It was September and it was a pouring rain day. On that day, I was going off to school with a group of 3 people, including myself, and 2 friends of the same grade who lived in the neighborhood. I remember the sky was a sticky gray and very dim. When heavy rain fell or strong winds blew due to a typhoon or other calamity, my heart was thrilled with a sense of the extraordinary, and we cackled and joked with each other as we made our way back home from school. I lived in a relatively urban area, but there were many hills, and the route home was gently up several hills from where the elementary school was located toward my house. It was pouring rain, and because the area was hilly, the gutters and drains that ran along the side of the road were filled with water flowing at a tremendous rate. However, the gutters are covered with lids, so whenever I found an occasional spot where there was a metal mesh, my friends and I would try to poke tree branches into it or pour fallen leaves into it to observe and play with them. As we were enjoying our little adventure, we found a place where the cover of the gutter was removed and we could see inside. The amount and force of the water inside the ditch was beyond our expectations. We were so excited that they threw stones into the ditch and enjoyed watching them being swept away so quickly that they played there for a while. Then someone said,
Let's put umbrellas in the water.
We were beginning to get tired of throwing stones and leaves, so we immediately took him up on his suggestion. One of my friends who was wearing a big raincoat said,
I'll do it.
The umbrella was almost swept away by the current, and the water got inside the folded umbrella. At that moment, a voice from behind said,
Hey, you guys!
I turned around to see the vice principal running toward us. The umbrella was instantly swept away, and a cracking sound of umbrella bones breaking could be heard coming from the ditch. The vice principal, who rushed to the scene, had a very frightened look on his face and said,
It's dangerous, go home quickly, you shouldn't play here.
The vice principal, with whom we do not usually have much contact, scolded us, and we quickly left, dispersing the spider's eggs as we went. When I got home and excitedly told my mother about what had happened, her expression suddenly turned somber and she asked me,
Where did that happen?
When I answered, at the bottom of the hill, where the ditch lid was open, my mother's face turned very sour and she said,
Oh my God, that place.
And began to tell her story. About 8 years ago, on a similar day of heavy rain, an elementary school boy was returning home alone and went missing, leaving only his school bag on the side of the ditch. The school was notified, and teachers and guardians searched for him, but could not find him. A few hours later, the boy was found in a ditch several hundred meters away from where he was believed to have fallen into the ditch, where only his school bag was left. The boy's body had been swept away by the tremendous force of the water in the ditch, and he was found in a state of disarray, with every bone in his body broken. It was the vice principal who had yelled at us who found the body, which was stiffened in a snarled shape with bones broken all over its body. It was a famous accident among those who lived in the area at the time, and everyone remembers it well. Since the accident, the vice principal began to patrol the students' route to and from school on rainy days. Later, the vice principal called me at home and told me that he was worried about whether anyone had been injured. The vice principal told the mother that when he was out on his rounds as usual, he saw us gathered in a ditch at the bottom of the hill, so he got bloodied and ran to the spot. She said,
I was so worried because that was the exact spot where the boy had fallen in.
since the accident, the ditch on the way to school had been covered with a lid, so he said he was really wondering why the lid was open only at that spot on that day. If the vice principal had not come there and loudly warned me, I feel that my friend would have been dragged into the ditch like that boy. Later, when I was talking with my friends who had gone home together, we were saying how glad we were that the vice principal had come, but when we talked about who had suggested that we put our umbrellas in, none of us had suggested it. Who made such a suggestion? Whenever it rains heavily, I still remember the scene of that rainy day, the loud voice and expression of the vice principal, and his voice saying,
Let's put umbrellas in the water.